We're now going to turn it over to Patti, who's in with the vet.
That's right, Sarah. Dr. Joel Conn is visiting with us today, and we are always saying, hey, send in your questions and comments. Ask the vet, and we will answer those. So this morning we're addressing one of those viewer questions concerning some behavior that's troubling her about her house cat.
That's right. So Diane from Paso Robles writes, I have a 15-year-old kitty. She is peeing anywhere she pleases, and she is an indoor-only cat, and this started just this year. She has just been going all over the house, and this is just so over the top for her because as a working person, she has to come home and get up and take care of this.
And then you have this mess to clean up, and sometimes you don't always get all of the mess out. You can kind of still smell it in the carpet or what have you, so it can be, that can be a big problem.
So this is a very frustrating condition, and it's actually the most common reason that we see cats come in for euthanasia because it's so hard to deal with.
The owners just can't take it
anymore. It's frustrating.
The
owners can't take it. And what people don't realize is that in most cases, this is a medical issue. It's not purely behavioral.
So is it just one problem that a cat is having, or can it be many different problems that would cause this?
It can be a number of different problems. So this is a little bit of a specific instance. In an older kitty, I would be more concerned to rule out medical issues. So those would be bladder stones, urinary tract infection or bladder infection, cancers affecting the bladder, also metabolic disease like diabetes, things like that. But in the average case of feline lower urinary tract disease, which is how we kind of refer to this group of symptoms, greater than 50% have no identifiable medical cause that I mentioned that you can specifically treat. So we have this syndrome that's called feline idiopathic cystitis. And idiopathic simply means we don't know what causes it. And cystitis just means inflammation of the bladder and the lower urinary tract. And in 50% of these cases, despite extensive testing, we may not identify an underlying cause. And the symptoms are typically the same in most cases. The cat has bloody urine. They're straining to urinate. Very, very commonly urinating in inappropriate locations outside of the litter box, licking of their urinary opening, so penis and nails.
Cleaning that area, it means they're feeling discomfort and they don't know what else to do about it.
So, and cats are very fastidious creatures. They don't want to urinate outside the litter box. So in most cases,
very clean.
They are. They're clean creatures, and so when you see this, don't just think, hey, he's decided to upset me. This actually is a medical condition. And what we find is that these guys develop inflammation and pain associated with their bladder and lower urinary tract that cause these symptoms.
So sometimes, we have 2 kittens right now, but I've had cats over the years. They tend to go, if they're going to go indoors, it could be, they usually don't do it in front of you. They're usually doing it, sort of in maybe the closet or somewhere they're not going to be seen. Does that have partly to do with the fact that they're in discomfort?
It is, yeah. I mean, cats, unlike dogs, are not in your face about their discomfort. They tend to kind of go off and hide.
They're very independent.
They're very independent. So, yeah, it's typically not in front of you. You just come home and you find this mess. So what we've identified, and this is a condition that's been described for over 100 years, and it's a hot topic at every conference I go to. I mean, it's still something we're working through the rule-outs, and we're working to find a way to treat it appropriately. But we have identified risk factors. And those are indoor-only cats are at much higher risk. Obesity does predispose, as does a sedentary lifestyle. So again, that tends to kind of go along with indoor-only kitties. Environmental stress is a huge factor, and this is something that cannot be overstated. What we don't realize about cats is that things that may not stress us out, stress them out.
They're very finicky.
They're very finicky.
They like the stuff the way they like it.
They do. That's absolutely true. And cats are very, very sensitive to their environment. So, the typical things you might think of, people coming over to the house, like for 4th of July, loud noises, construction in the house, of course, those can be stressors. Those are more obvious ones. But it could be something as simple as a feral cat that's wandering around outside in the yard.
So there can be very subtle things we might not pick up on.
Changes in food, changes in litter box location or type of litter. Very simple, subtle things. And so it's very important when we're kind of going through these rule outs and when you're talking to your vet that you try to think of anything that could have changed in your cat's life.
Differently.
That's right. And then, of course, litter box aversion is a very big one, poor water intake, and diet.
And so when you're saying litter box aversion, does this mean you're not keeping my litter box clean enough so I don't want to use it?
That can be part of it. And sometimes life will intervene. You're not cleaning it every day like you used to, and that can be a stress factor. But what we see sometimes is that cats, even though they're using the box most of the time, there's enough of a fear factor there or a stress associated with that box that they're holding their urine in their bladder longer than they should. It has time to develop inflammation, crystals, things like that, and that can lead to these syndromes.
And then it turns into like a kind of a circular type of problem.
It can. And what we find that in general, cats do better with clumping litter that's unscented.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it can be also the location of the box, so a box that's in a high traffic area near a loud washing machine, for example.
Privacy.
They want privacy.
And peace and quiet.
And in multi-cat households, the number of boxes is really important too.
Oh, okay.
Your equation is your number of cats plus 1. And that's very uncommon. So if you have 13 cats in the house, that makes it a challenge. But if you just have 1 or 2, you know, having that extra box can really make a difference.
Okay, these are all good tips. I just think maybe one of the biggest frustrations for being a cat owner is if you have a cat peeing in the house. I think of all the things cats do, although tearing up the furniture with their little claws is up there too.
Right.
So
the kind of nuts and bolts of it, the first thing is we want to rule out an infection because about 20% of these cats will have an infection. That's easily treatable. We treat it, we're done. But in the other percentage, and greater than 50% of these cats, it's more about environmental changes. So that litter box is really important. The type of diet can make a difference. And what we think is that in many of these cases, having a cat on a canned food is actually beneficial because of the higher moisture content.
There's more water, and that's helpful for them if they have this kind of a problem. So it's all about making your cat comfortable, it sounds.
It is.
Putting your cat at ease.
Yeah, it is. Encourage drinking. So cats that we have, we call them wild water drinkers. So cats that drink out of the tub or out of the faucet, you can take advantage of that. Get yourself a water container that has flowing water, or put bowls in those locations. We said they were finicky. They like that flowing, moving water or fresh. And I've noticed that I've had cats in the past that they won't drink, but as soon as you change the bowl, they will drink immediately, but then they wait until you change it again. So they want fresh water. They want fresh water. Some cats want tap water. Some cats want bottled water. So figuring out what your cat wants is really important. Now, there are some other things that you can do as well that your vet can help you with. Pheromone treatment. We have a product called Feel-Away, which is an artificial cat pheromone. And believe it or not, you plug this in kind of like a Glade, plug-in, goes into the wall, and it will diffuse this pheromone over the room. And it, in theory, creates a sense of sort of calm and ease for your kitty, which can actually help with some of these stress conditions.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so you can try that.
Changing the type of litter in your litter box. So again, clumping,
so maybe not the scented
litters.
One we think is freshening the house, but maybe is not what your cat
and we're seeing a lot of people, too, are using these organic substrate litters, so corn cob, some of these other ones, and while they may be more environmentally friendly, your cat doesn't always like them. And so that's important to figure those out.
So you have to weigh how important it is to be, going green, or maybe you are just creating a problem in your own house.
That's absolutely right.
In the end, if they're not using the litter box, it's not helpful to have it. So.
Of course.
And, it's in a lot of areas here on the Central Coast, you are forced to have your cat be indoors, whether you like it or not, because it's not always safe for them. There's a lot of coyotes and different predators and things, so it's often a better choice to kind of, tough it out with the litter box and have them stay inside.
That's true. And then, so with that, it's really important to work on environmental enrichment. That's probably one of the main things. So, think about places that your cat can hang out, and don't just think about the horizontal spaces in the house. But cats like to be up.
Right.
So the towers, having high perches where they can get away from the kids and get away from the dogs, can really help with that. Having toys available, playing with your cat, actually can make a huge difference in this condition.
Because as independent as they are, they're also very social. So they kind of like it both ways. Leave me alone when I don't want to be bothered, but then I want your attention sometimes.
Yeah. Well, of course they want you on their terms.
Yeah, they're in control.
That's right.
All right, well, all good information, and I had no idea there was so much behind a cat going in the house, other than that it's just absolutely frustrating. But I really didn't know. I did experience once, we had a sick cat who, it turned out by the time I figured out she had a problem, she was very ill, and I thought she was just acting badly, and as it turned out, she was having kidney problems.
That's right.
So
cats don't want to do this, so if they're exhibiting unusual behavior, get it checked out first. We want to rule out some of the obvious things, but then from there, we start working through some of these other changes that you can make to try to improve the condition.
Could be a healthier cat, and it could just be something simple and small we're overlooking and just didn't think about.
That's right.
All right, good information. Thank you for the viewer questions and comments, and send yours in to askthevet@kcoi.com, and Dr. Joel Conn will address those when he's back with us. All right, thanks for being here this morning, and we are right back in just a moment.